When I first got to choosing a book, I was looking for genres I enjoyed. It's kind of hard for me to read memoirs and similar books, mostly because I hardly reach for them, but also because they never really stick to me. I ended up doing some Googling on the book list before I chose anything, and one of the main books that stood out to me was Book of Mutter by Kate Zambreno. The reason why I decided to choose it was because it had characteristics regarding the horror genre, and while it's not specifically a traditional horror book, it contains familiar elements to the genre, like grief, psychological trauma, familiar relationships, and memory. And while you could associate them with other genres too, they do have a darker twist in the book, in my opinion. So while I would love to talk about how much this book relates to the genre, that's not what this book is about. Rather, the idea of not categorizing the book, it seems to be a bigger part of it. With a quick Google search, it is described to incorporate elements of memoirs, criticisms, and poetry, while also using a haunted or fragmented style to explore the pain of loss, illness, and the brutal nature of the writer's mother's death and decline. In the beginning, I didn't want to do too much research on the book, mostly because I wanted to go in blind, but also because while I knew as much as Google gave me, I simply bought the book and opened it right back up. Right off the bat, I was surprised at how the book wasn't a memoir, neither an essay or even poetry the way it's formatted. In its structure and its style, it's really uncategorized. The text and blank spaces almost complementing each other and contrasting. And kind of like the book, it's like memories besides a page and a half of silence. And to me, first of all, it felt kind of relieving knowing that I didn't have to read so much, but I also felt kind of sad when I finished the book, mostly because what I was reading felt so personal and so inviting that when you finished it, it was like the door was closed on me and I couldn't get back in. And there's like so little words to cling on to. And thinking of it from like a poetic perspective, that's what you would experience kinda while losing a loved one, you know? There's fragmented pieces of when you see them every other day or like maybe once a year, and then one day they're gone and the time that you had with them is really short. My first impressions of the book, of course, when you open it up from its packaging, or if you get it in person, was the back, because the back always has a summary, and mine thankfully had a summary. And the first words that showed up were obviously like the explanation, but the main part of the explanation that really stood out to me was, and I quote, "Composed over 13 years, which is a long time, Kate Zambreno's Book of Mutter is a tender and disquieting meditation on the ability of writing, photography, and memory to embrace shadows while in the throes and dead calm of grief. Book of Mutter is both primal and sculpted, shaped by the author's searching indexical impulse to inventory family apocrypha in the wake of her mother's death." To me, the book itself was so personal, and I would read it again. While doing some research on the book itself, there wasn't a lot to go off, to be fair, mainly because it is, I guess, most memoirs, it's not the most popular book, but I feel like if someone gave it a chance, it would get so much more attention, especially, I keep saying the word, but how personal it feels, and how the words that you would say, it's, oh my god, I can't keep saying personal just because that's literally what the book is. It's almost like opening a diary. It feels invasive. And I could only express, and I could only like imagine how like weight off the shoulders of a feeling it would have been to write this book after experiencing all of that she wrote in the book. But looking at some articles, one of the articles that I found was by Rufkos, and it's called The Interlinked Process of Reading and Writing Grief, Thoughts on the Book of Mutter by Kate Zambreno. And my main thoughts were that in the article, it talks about how the Book of Mutter and the style is described to be akin to making your way through a strangely familiar space that resembles a gallery, a diary, and a hall of mirrors all at once. With its shifting fragments, the writer relates to their own feelings of grief when it comes to losing a close family member, kind of like how they're trying to relate in a way to Kate. And while you can't like really relate, it could be like a distant family member, I think, that they're talking about, but like compared to like a mother, like I fight with my mom all the time, and even like in the book, Kate doesn't have the best relationship with her mother, but at the end of the day, it was her mother, you know. And it expresses how their shared histories, along with their quote-unquote hopes and fears, are complex. In a way, it kind of blurs the edges of the mourning process, showing how grief reflects in our own life, past and present, and how the relationship we had with our past loved ones, like in this case, her mother, revealed a lot about herself and her mother, especially as she keeps living her life. So you can also reflect it upon yourself, like how you act before and after their death, during it. I feel like it shows a lot about who you are as a person, and it gives you a lot of self-reflecting to do. I was crying once or twice during this book. Another article that I found was from, I'm gonna mess this name up, Plowshares at Emerson College. It's a college article, but it's by Sue Rainsford, writing as Mourning in Kate Zambreno's Book of Mutter. And so like while looking more into other thoughts on her prose, when I came upon this article, it spoke about certain quotes that I happened to enjoy while reading this book. One of them was, I perform her on my body. When I began working in this book 2 years after her death, I began experiencing bodily disturbances. The article makes it a point to speak on the reader's possible thoughts on how Zambreno phrased a lot of like her feelings, how mourning can be produced by the same body part as writing is produced, and how these quote-unquote disturbances signify the body what the mind wants to forget, almost like what. It's so hard to explain, but it's oh my god. The article also remarks on how these fuel and shape Zambreno's prose. Some other quotes that I personally enjoyed was, my mother, my enemy, my best friend. My mother, my sworn enemy, my first love. To put these memories in a book so as to be released from it, these 13 years of it, like a sacrificial offering, to bury it in the ground, writing as a way not to remember but to forget, or if not to forget, to attempt to leave it behind. All the offerings from the dead as they remain buried. To me, a lot of what she was saying in the book regarding her mother really stood out to me, because I personally didn't have the best relationship with my mom growing up. I feel like it's better now. But I didn't have the best relationship with my mom. And to be honest, she did have me at an early age, and I feel like that really did affect the way our relationship started off. And I think we're both very mature now, and we get along pretty well, but when I was reading this, I did cry a little, because it felt really true, you know? Your mother is your first love, but she is your sworn enemy or your first enemy. And it's kind of hard not to see it. Even like maternal figures or anyone in the space of a mother, it just stands out a lot. And if I should start talking about the project you see me doing down there, but you should know my phone is set up on a bunk bed, just staring down, or like a loft bed, with a funny ruler held up by like a head tie, just holding my phone up because I don't have a stand and I'm not buying one. So essentially I'm making a book sleeve, if you didn't read the cover, but I'm making a book sleeve because I kind of wanted to make something, because the way we were talking about memoirs were just, even like personal writing, it's writing that is personal because you make it, And every part of that writing is a memoir in the sense that every part of yourself and any part of yourself is in it. And it's so true for this little book sleeve I made. And I hope you are enjoying watching me make this. I did want to talk about the specifics of why I made a book sleeve. So sewing to me is pretty personal. I sew so much, not just fabric. I sew down patches. I do flat stitch beading, Native American beading, and it's just always been something I've been good at. I'm self-taught, but my mother was the one who gave me the needle and thread, and I would always fix things. It started off with my bears, fixing their clothing, stuffing them more when they got too squished, and I've always been sewing. I would say the turning point of when my crafting era started was my mother, who didn't have a lot of friends when she got older because when she was young she had me, and it's kind of hard to keep your friends when you're jumping into adulthood like she did. And she had this one woman who was her friend because my grandmother used to clean houses, and so my mom would help her clean houses. And a woman she met was named Sharon, and Sharon was a sewing hobby aficionado, as some would say. And this beautiful woman unfortunately passed away from breast cancer, and she gave my mom some things before she passed away, some kitchen stuff, and a box full of embroidery and sewing supplies. And my mom knew that I was very creative. I used to draw and I used to sew my little bears all the time, and so she gave it to me. And I still have that same box. The supplies have run low and I've been refilling them. Embroidery, patches, I've been filling it with so much stuff, and I've bought my own boxes too. And I made this book cover because I had bought fabric and I haven't started making it, so I thought it'd be beautiful if I made a book cover for the Book of Mutter, using skills that to me makes this book cover feel like a memoir in itself. It is me in its entirety. It has flowers on the inside for all the beautiful things inside, with a skin as dark as the sorrows in this book sometimes. I thought it was beautiful, and I've never made a book sleeve, so it came out really well, and I'm so proud of it. And I hope you guys actually enjoyed it, and if anyone wants to learn how to make any, I am free to teach. Thank you so much.